Welcome back to Top Lenders in America. I am Charlie Madison with my friend Zach Hammer of Real Estate Growth Hackers. And
Hello, hello.
I'm really excited about this conversation. What's interesting about it is, we're going to talk about the basics that kind of the godfather of small business marketing. And that person's Dan Kennedy. If you've heard of just about any of the popular marketers around, and you trace their marketing lineage, they all kind of go to probably Dan Kennedy and Jay Abraham. That's the two. And, I've been listening to some of Dan Kennedy's stuff again. What's amazing, he started, he was on the stage, I think in the 1970s, 1980s, teaching this stuff, and it's still valid today. Like, that's what's really cool to me. Like, really simple, and with all the bright, shiny objects, it's easy to get distracted. And at the end of it's real fascinating. I'm listening to these, it's like 12 hours of stuff. And it really is down to, you want to be able to get a list of people and build a relationship with them and sell them what they want. Like, that's really business in a nutshell. And the reason most businesses fail is because, one, they don't spend any time trying to get that list of people.
Right.
And then number two, the list of people they do have, they totally ignore. Like, they don't build any relationship. In fact, kind of small business thing is, I don't want to look like a human. I want to look like a big company. I want to, with all this bureaucracy and steps, and people want to work with a person, a relationship. And so one of the things that I see the smartest businesses do, like, they've got a person that you connect them with. You think of, if you guys have heard of HubSpot, the founder of that, he's well known. He's still doing webinars talking, Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook, Elon Musk with all of his companies. And famously, Tesla doesn't do any advertising.
Right.
Those are really what I see as the biggest linchpins is build a list and build a relationship with them. And I think that's probably, like, when I go to any kind of real estate broker training or anything, that is probably what's left out the most. There's lots of people that are going to say, hey, I can sell you these leads. I was just looking at a forum, and some LOs were talking about, hey, what about, this lead service? And someone said, it works if you spend the next 2 years building a relationship with these people. And if you get a 3% conversion rate, you've done amazing.
Right.
And so that's where the leads are a liability for most people, because I can get you 1,000 leads knowing that 30 of them are going to convert if you develop a relationship with them next 2 years. That right there is pretty daunting.
Right.
And what we've done with the Realtor Waiting List is we've made that as simple as possible. And we're actually I don't think we've shared the best offer that we found is working right now. Step one, who's the list? We build the list of people that you already know. Of course, most lenders, they've got the list of people. They may not be doing anything with it. They may be sending out the automated emails. It takes a lot to put your personality into, like, how do you build that relationship?
Right.
And, realtors, very few realtors have any thought about that. Hey, what's my list? How do I update it daily? Gary Keller, millionaire real estate agent, his core, so this is fascinating. The core of a real estate agent is build your database, grow it daily, build a relationship with them. Like that's it. But then I was part of Keller Williams when I first got into real estate. Grateful for a lot of the great things I learned. But then what they actually had me do was import everyone I know and spam them with Keller Williams logoed BS. Like, no relationship building at all. No, it's just spam them.
To be fair, there is a relationship built with that, right? It's not an ideal one. All right. What I like about these foundational concepts is that like we chug it down, build a list, build a relationship with them, sell them what they want, right? Or give them what they want, right? So build a list, right? Hey, if I want to build a list, like, shoot, I go out, I can pick up the yellow pages, I can pick up the white pages. I got a list, right? Like, it is a list. Technically, it's a very unqualified, just generic list. And so when you're talking, build a list, there's a level of quality on that. How well matched to what you're planning to offer is that list? How likely are they to need what you plan to offer? That sort of thing, right? There's levels of quality in there. And then similarly, build a relationship with that list. Well, there's all sorts of strategies to try and do that. Like you're saying, one of the strategies that people often employ is the ignore it strategy. And you know what level of a relationship that builds? A pretty poor one, right? Honestly, better to me than the ignore it is spam them with offers. That to me is at least better, because at least some percentage of those people, you're going to hit them with a message at exactly the right time, and they're going to have ignored everything else, and you're going to get at least one person to respond to you, right? Like
there is truth in that.
I would say, I don't know. It'd be interesting to split test which performs better, ignoring them versus spamming them, because it's possible that you piss off more people in the spamming and you'd get more response by ignoring them. But even better than any of those methods is actually to, really nurture that list and do it in a way that feels cool, that people like receiving, that feels natural, builds that relationship, etc. And like there's different strategies on building a relationship with them, and what we're talking about is like, what are the optimal ways, right? And what you've put together with the realtor waiting list and the referrals while you sleep programs are what I would say is the ideal way to both assemble an amazing high quality list of people that are likely to convert, as long as they are properly nurtured and you build that relationship with them. And then you've put together what I believe is the ideal way to build a relationship at scale. Now, honestly, more ideal would be if you could somehow literally clone yourself and have one-to-one conversations that are fully personal and fully engaged with that person, and you do that as often as possible. That would be like the absolute best.
Yeah.
We don't have the ability to clone ourselves like that. And
yet.
We have to, yeah. So we have to figure out if that's like the ideal best, and then down at the bottom is just completely ignoring them, right? We have to figure out somewhere in between where we're talking to as many of them as possible in a way that feels personal, that connects with them in a way that they actually want, so that we're top of mind when it comes time for them to think about working with us, and giving them a great offer. Like, have you revealed it yet? I know we were talking about it before.
We haven't yet. We haven't yet. Yeah. And what I like about that is my insight from listening to this again, because we hear the term drip on people, we hear the term nurture, we hear the term stay top of mind. Boom roasted. Yes. Well, my big insight, just the remembrance, is like, I'm building a relationship with a list of people. So if you don't know, one of Dan Kennedy's famous things is there's two parts. One, it's message to the market match. In other words, you get a list of people that all want something similar, and you send them the right message so that they're like, oh, this guy's in my head. He knows exactly what I'm thinking. And you match the message to the market. So that's one of his common things. And the other is multi-step marketing. He did a lot of direct mail, and he said, don't send one mail piece, send 7, send 14. He's actually talking about getting people to come to like his speaking events, and he'll send like 60 or more pieces of content. And my big insight was each one of those pieces of content, like, he's going to make an offer. He's Dan Kennedy, and he's building the relationship, though, is what he's doing. He's not just dripping on them. He's actually like talking in his voice to them about what they care about. And if they don't care about marketing, they're going to jump off the list, and that's okay. What he's looking for is to build a relationship, and he calls them with the hyper responsives. There's going to be a lot of people that buy once or twice, but there's going to be some people that are going to buy everything that he's got. And the deeper he can make that relationship, the more he can find out, one, what they want so that he can sell them, but two, like, they're not going to go anywhere else.
Can I share one of the metrics that I think feel like relates to this?
Yes.
Fair enough. So one of the things, like, I realize this intuitively as well. So you and I are similar on this, where that our primary form of creating content is often hopping on camera or hopping on mic and just flowing, just speaking from the heart, speaking intuitively about whatever we're thinking about a subject.
Flow, don't drip.
So yeah, exactly. Full stream. Dare say a shower. But what I was going to say is I realized that like when we've talked about something in the past called the biggest check, right? One of the things that I looked at in thinking back through where my sales were coming from, that most often I could track my sales back to people that I have had either a lot of interaction with or that I know have consumed a lot of my content. And so I started to figure out if I could just optimize for the amount of time that somebody essentially listens to me and hears me, my chances of making a sale with that person go up through the roof. And so the KPI, the key performance indicator for me, is total watch time, total consumption time. And I'm not always measuring it exactly. Like, it's not something that I'm specifically tracking completely, but just as like a gut feel, if I'm looking at what am I doing marketing wise, and do I believe that the creation of this asset or the putting my time into this thing, does it likely result in a meaningful growth in total consumption time of my content? If it does do that, then great. If it has a strong likelihood of that. If it doesn't, then I tend to not want to do it. And so when I'm making decisions, like if I do a webinar or if I do something like that, and there's the sort of the standard way, you give people a lot of like paradigm shifts and insights, and then the only way that they actually get to take action on it is if they buy your product. There's that way. And what that's always left me feeling is I don't want to hop on this webinar if I feel like the only value I'm going to get out of it is if I buy the thing. Because then if it's not the right time to buy the thing, then I know. Anyway, so I designed and shifted my content strategy around the idea of I want to reward people anytime they consume my content. And I want to feel like that's the case so that I am training my audience that the more they consume my content, the better I make their life. Because I know if I get them consuming my content, it's only a matter of time before at some point they'll want to buy something, right? At some point, I have something to offer that's in alignment with the content that I'm producing, that they will want, that the timing will be right, their budget will be right, and they will be willing to exchange money in result for that. So anyway, but simplifying it down to total consumption time has been super useful to me in thinking through this type of stuff. And it's a great filter when you look at like the standard drips, right? The standard drips from real estate and probably even in the lending world as well. What are they? Like, they're typically like, I'm always here for you. Here's a new listing that you don't need or care about because I sold you a home and you haven't given me any indication that you're ready to buy again. So why would I be sending you this? Right? Or, hey, an announcement about an open house. And again, you're not looking for homes right now. So why would you care about this? And just thinking through, like, a lot of the messaging is just, it's all around, it may not be offensive, but it's irrelevant. And what you train people to do is ignore you. Right? And so when you could set up your marketing to be designed to say, hey, this is either going to impression somebody in a way that they can't help but be impressioned, right? Where like an ad shows up in the midst of somewhere else where they are, right? That's going to impression somebody in a useful way without training them to ignore you, right? Like, it's going to be, oh, hey, that's nice. And then they're on to their next thing, which is perfect for that kind of thing, right? Or you're putting out content that is designed to be relevant And when they're actually engaging, when they're actually interested in that topic, they dive in further, but they're going to continue to see it regardless. And then they'll engage when they're ready. That's the perfect way to do it. It's like putting that bait out into the water to see when they're ready, but they're always going to know that you're there. And they're always going to know that you're available if they need the help.
Yeah, and that's kind of the unique thing with us in lending and real estate is, the person's only going to need us once every 3 or 7 years. So, and it can be pretty expensive to stay top of mind in a fun way. And so then kind of, all right, so what's your option? Expense. Of course, if you're on your local TV, you sponsor your local TV news in the morning, you're on there once a week. That keeps you top of mind. That's pretty expensive. Down, you got your broker spam emails that get from. I've got one friend, he puts out a newsletter once a month. Right. And he's got a separate email list just for that because it's affordable. Or you ignore them, right? Or you spend money somewhere in between. And I think one of the insights with building that relationship is my goal isn't just to get someone to respond right now. It's like you said, if I just sold them a house, they're probably not going to buy a house right now, but they might refer someone to me. So how do I stay in front of them in a way that I either get one of those or it builds my influence? So when they're ready, they see me as the only option in town and it's usually not because of my expertise. It's because they've built a relationship with me. Like at the end of the day, it's the like switch. If they like me, I'm going to get first shot at it. And if I've to take them through the closing, this isn't like a roof where you pay me and then it's done. This is a 3 to 9 month relationship where you got to do what needs to happen all 5 of those times. What happens as we build this relationship in a really fun way, like it's smooth, it's like construct it smooths that road. So when they are ready, it's a no-brainer that they're going to meet with me. It's a no-brainer they're going to sign me to be a buyer or seller at my commission rate, right? It's going to be a no to follow my steps to get under contract.
Right.
It's going to be a lot of a no-brainer. I'll handle the contingencies. I say that because contingencies are still tough. You got the inspections, you got the appraisals, but it's a whole lot smoother when you've got that influence, when you've got that likability. Like they're not standing back seeing whether they trust me. They default want to trust me. Like, I love what Jay Abrahams, I think it's him that says, everyone's walking around with their umbilical cord in hand, just looking for a place to plug it into. Like people are like dying for leadership. And so as I've built this consistent relationship, they love to be able to relax and say, if you say this is what needs to happen, it needs to happen. Right. And then the last 3 days, they trust you to get that done. And I've got a client right now listing, needs to sell fast. We're under contract and we're going through I am more concerned about reading the contract to him than he is. He's like, I trust you, Charlie. I'm pushing buttons. I'm like, I want you to know what this says. And it's great for me. And it's also great for him. Like he's got a lot of stuff he's dealing with and he just doesn't have to think about it. And part of the reason is like with this guy, I mean, we were actually laughing because we were calculating some stuff and his wife was actually my math teacher in high school and really good friends with his son still. And I was like, good thing your wife's a math teacher as we're calculating this out. So we've got that relationship and it just makes it so much easier. And I don't think most real estate pros, most mortgage pros, I remembered, like my goal is to have a list of people and my goal is to continually build a relationship with them. That's number one and that's number two. And then my goal is to make them an offer, right? But that's my goal. How do I make it fun to be on my list? And how do I every day kind of create that daily dose of likability, that daily dose of influence, so that when they're ready, when their friends are ready, only one option. Like they reach out to me.
I think one of the things that's really important in this too is people ultimately buy from those that they know and trust, right? So those three things have to come together. And trust isn't just about like the lowest rung of trust is, do I think you're honest?
Right.
Do I believe that you say like that what you're saying you actually mean, right? That's the lowest rung of trust. But above that is what I would call like expertise and authority, where not only do I trust that you're being honest, but I trust that you can deliver on what you say as well. Like your intentions may be honest. If your intentions are honest and you don't know what you're doing, you're still going to get a result of somebody who's dishonest, right? It's so you need that level of baseline expertise. And there's a really interesting thing, like, how likely are you to trust me if I just keep saying, hey, Charlie, you can trust me. You can trust me. You can trust Charlie.
Right.
Charlie, you can trust me. And Charlie, you can trust me.
Yeah.
If I just keep telling you that, it actually has the reverse effect.
Right.
Right? It has the effect of actually making me seem less trustworthy. But there's something really interesting. When you and I, every week, hop on camera together and talk to each other as peers about these subjects, and that goes out into the world, what that shows is it shows, without saying it, Zach is at least trustworthy enough and expert enough that there is somebody else in this world who continually will talk to him about these subjects, that either wants to be on a show with him or wants him to be on their show. And that continually showing up, where it's clear, like when we talk about things, we're talking about things that are in our domains of mastery and our zones of genius, right? Where we actually know some level of what we're talking about and what we want to be known for. Us continually showing up in this way, even if somebody doesn't go through the content, is like a continual reminder of this person has authority. This person has expertise. And so when it comes time, do you need help in this type of transaction? They're already going to think this, even without reviewing your materials, even without all the evidence that you have to show in a presentation, they're going to come to that armed thinking, this person must be an expert. I've continually seen them talk about this stuff for the past, 3 to 7 years. Every week, like clockwork, I'm seeing content come out, or every month, whatever. Like they're seeing that consistency, that even if they don't read it, they see the picture. They see you and another person. They see that you're up talking about these things. They see that it's that consistency over time. Like you get that thing that everybody wants when they say, I'm the number one agent and look at how many transactions I have. And it's amazing how many number one agents there are in every market, by the way. You get the benefit that people are trying to do without the last minute. You get that when you get it so much more effectively when you do it in advance and you build that authority before it's actually needed, in a way that you just can't at the closing table, at the buyer presentation, at the listing presentation, at the meeting with the realtor. Like you don't get that authority when you tell somebody that you should trust me. You do get it when they've seen all the markers of authority for the past years leading up to the transaction. But
you build a relationship with someone.
Exactly.
Then, when that relationship's there, they just want to buy stuff from you. Like they literally want to buy something from, and that's one of the things Dan Kennedy said. He said, when you've got a list of people and they're going to buy something,
right,
no matter what, find a way to partner with someone to offer it to them. Because here's the thing, your list has a relationship with you and they want to buy it from you instead of someone else. Like they literally want to buy something from you. And, Alex Hormozy, but we got to say that every time. He talked about Mr. Beast. And Mr. Beast, like he sells chocolate bars and they can't keep them in stock because like he's built so much goodwill with his videos. People literally just want to give him money for anything, whether it's a burger, whether it's a chocolate bar. Alex, he said, like, if he was going to do, he's pretty successful. I don't know how much he's worth, but he's done well. But he said if he was doing different starting over, he would have started with content, which I think that's pretty fascinating. And,
And I think it's interesting that right now, like, he's a great example. Like, that guy, he's built up a name for himself in this marketing space, right? Like, before that, it was in the specifically gyms, the fitness business space. But like at this point right now, just because of his content and because of some arbitrary thing that he does personally, that guy launched a nose strip brand. It would be a massive brand. Like,
It would
it
be
has
eight
nothing
figures
to
a year.
do with.
It'd be 8 figures a year
Yeah.
right off the rip.
Yep. And it has nothing to do with what he actually does. It's just because he's constantly wearing nose strips in his videos that people would be like, oh man, if this guy, like that shows you the power of just consistent impressioning, right? It's like, this guy recommends this brand. It's got to mean something. I always see him wearing nose strips. He must know what he's talking about when it comes to nose strips. And honestly, he probably does.
Right.
But anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the power of building a relationship. And what's cool, the millions of people that he has built a relationship with through his content. I genuinely have love and care in my heart for him because his business advice has been so powerful. It's like I followed Dan Sullivan of Strategic Coach for about 10 years before. It was like when I was first starting in business and I didn't qualify for his coaching. And so like I bought his books, I followed him. And I remember the year that I qualified to join his coaching. Right. And it was like $100 for a year. And I was going to fly to Toronto 4 times a year and get a hotel. And it wasn't an easy choice at then because I qualified, but I just qualified to get money wise. But I was like, I've got to do this. And really for over a decade, all of my best business ideas, like the biggest check, came from Dan. And I remember one day I was in Toronto and at lunch, I come out and he's just sitting there talking to us. And I was like, I'm so grateful for you. Oh, like I'd met him before, but he had, I don't know, like if he asked me to do something, I would do it because like he acted my life through his material and it didn't cost him any more. Like literally it doesn't cost him any more to reach you and me and all the other people. And I think that's the magic of content now that people enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really interesting. We spend so much time thinking about, am I using the right script to get the response? Is my ad copy employing all of these specific things to get the first response? But really, our best sales tool is our past sales.
Right.
Like, what did we already sell? And did we do a good job? Because probably for me, one of the first people that sort of exists in my brain in kind of a similar space as Alex Hormozi is Tim Ferriss. And with Tim Ferriss, it's like that guy comes out with a book, that guy comes out with something, I am going to buy it.
Right.
Like pretty much regardless, because part of it is I've discovered I really like the way that he thinks. So if he's applying his way of thinking even into something somewhat unrelated, I'm probably going to enjoy it. I'm probably going to like it. And like, really, his sales method for all of that was his first book for me, right? Like that was his sales tool. His sales tool is I read 4 Hour Workweek and I really loved it. And then, so I bought 4 Hour Body and I bought 4 Hour Chef and I bought
Tribe of Mentors.
And
yeah,
exactly. Right. And some of them, if I'm going to be completely honest, I bought some of them and haven't read them yet.
Right.
Right. Like the buying was definite. The do I have time to read it was the option. But yeah, those are sales that were made in advance, and we get that similar sort of benefit just by like every time somebody consumes your content or sees you, it's like there's a mini sale happening. Right? It's like when they saw you show up, did they feel like it was a net positive in their life, a net negative, or neutral?
Right.
Right. And it's got to be one of those. And so the goal to me is I want everything at a minimum to be a neutral or better. And if I can make it a net positive, I'm going to strive to make it a net positive. Right. But I don't want anything to be a net negative. I don't want anything to detract from it. And so much of the marketing that people put out, it does the exact opposite of building a relationship. It's a withdraw from the relationship. And when you're in that cycle, it makes sense that you get into this cycle of, you got to go out and find a bunch of new people because you keep burning the ones that end up on your list. So you got to replenish them with new ones because you're not actually nurturing it. You're just burning through that you've put together. But But yeah, so what I love about what
Burn
you
the
do
ship,
with
the list.
exactly. What I love about what you do with realtor waiting list and referrals while you sleep is that the whole process, I'd say some of it is a net neutral, right? Like you show up and it may not be something that they're like, I feel great today for having seen this, but they're not going to feel bad.
Right.
Does that make sense? They're not going to feel like you wasted their time. It might, your ad might show up in a spot where it's consumed while they're consuming something else. And they may not even notice it a ton, but it's continually there, continually impressioning them. And it's done so in a way that isn't distracting or, that feels burdensome. I like to talk about this. Hormozi mentioned this too. I realized this before Hormozi started talking about it, but like the number of communications that somebody is willing to see without responding to before they get pissed off is like directly proportional to how private the communication is. So if you're sending somebody a bunch of text messages, emails, Facebook messages, phone calls, like those are all private.
Right.
And so if you're doing a lot of those and they're not responding to you, your chances of pissing them off go through the roof, right? But what's interesting is that's not the case in public. If it's a public message and they see it constantly, it doesn't piss people off.
Yeah.
Right? Like
billboards.
I don't get angry. Exactly. I don't get angry at billboards. At worst, in the worst case, I start like, I ignore them. That's the worst. But it's either nothing happens or I notice. Like if you're like a legitimately offensive billboard, I might notice that for a bad reason, but assuming it's not that. Right. But yeah, it's so what I love about what you have set up is like most people are constantly trying to reach people in these really private forms of communication and just badgering them there where you're either going to not be noticed or piss people off most often. Or what you do is you actually leverage more public ways, but you still get the benefit of continually showing up and having that personal connection via video and via picture and those kinds of things. So it works really well to get that same benefit. You mentioned, this is only somewhat related, you mentioned direct mail. Direct mail is one of those interesting ones to me where it's like you get a certain level of it's private, but it almost doesn't feel like it is. And so like that could be just the way things have evolved. But like at this point, so as a for instance, if it was going to exist on a scale, technically direct mail is somewhat private. It's a somewhat private form of communication, right? But it's probably the most public private form of communication in terms of if somebody sent me a letter every day I'm not going to get angry about that.
Right.
First, I'm just going to throw it away, right? Because I already get stuff in the mail that I just ignore, right? Shoot, we have political season upon us. That's already happening, right? You get tons of these political ads and it's like, okay, here's another one. But it doesn't piss me off. Email is probably to the, closer to the end. For some people, it's a little bit more, you get a lot of messages and it doesn't bother you because that's just what's happened to it. But like you start getting into like text messages and like Facebook messages and that sort of thing. If somebody's pinging me via text message every day and I'm not responding, like it's going to drive me up a wall real quick.
Right.
But yeah, anyway, so what I love about what you do is that you don't rely on the private forms of communication. You get the benefit like you're having private communication, but done in a public channel where you could do it at scale constantly and not overtax people.
Yeah. And part of the method to the madness is when my clients see me out and about, they see that it builds the authority, it builds the celebrity. And if I had Dan Sullivan's personal cell phone and I felt I could reach out to him, like I would feel special to be able to do that. Right. And I think part of the issue with kind of cold calling, if he was texting me once a month with an offer, there's no value there. And a lot of what we're taught is you call other people's like people get your information. And so what we're doing, we're giving content in public so that out to us, like it feels personal to them. It's out and about. But I love the thought. I don't reach out to someone if someone reaches out to me when they know who I am, what I do, and they're 99% sure they want to hire me no matter what I charge. And cool, for the first time ever, we can do that on a consistent basis to thousands of people. in a really personal way. And that's just really amazing. And what we're doing is like, we can actually build a relationship with a lot of people. Alex Hormozi is doing it with, I would, hundreds of thousands at least at this point. And now he's spending a lot of money on it, but we can do it really affordably. One of my lenders I'm talking about, and she was getting we were onboarding one of her realtors that she's in BNI group with. And she said, she's been in the business 30 years. And she said, I can't send even one piece of mail to all my list, or it's like over $4,000 every month. Like, do that. But here with Referrals While You Sleep, like, I can 15,000 people every month can see me 20 times. And it's not just a postcard, it's not just a letter, it's me. And I don't letter, like, they actually see me talking. It's like that. She was like, this is amazing. I've been looking for a way, because at fourth, she said, I'd love to call all my clients once a year and just see how they're doing. That's all she would be doing. And she's an amazing lender. Like, she's like one of my favorite types of clients. Like, she's a real craftsman at lending. She finds the way. And that's what she wants to do. And she wants to spend 80% of her time serving her current clients. And she said, so like, I don't have time to spend 40 hours networking. And like, I have to trust that if I do a good enough job, that I'll get repeat clients. You got to be top of mind as well. And she said, she was talking to this realtor, and she's so excited. She said she had some rentals and she sold them a couple years ago. And like, her eyes lit up. She's like, well, my tenant from 2 years ago called me out of the blue this week and said, I'm thinking about buying a home, and would you be able to help me? That's perfect. And my client, the lender, she was like, it just hit me, because I've been wondering, why did she think of me? Like, she's not on any of my database. She's not on my list because she was a tenant, and we keep that separate. She's like, she was in my phone. And so she saw the Referrals While You Sleep, and that right there's the perfect client. Would you be willing to help me? Like, that's what you want. And it's through, what's cool too is, as you meet new people, they start getting this relationship, and it's literally free to develop a relationship with the new people, because we're also targeting that 4,000, 5,000 people you already know. So you deepen that relationship, and everyone new, they just get added onto it. Like we can say, you do fun things with fun people.
Right. It's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. It's the best way. It's the best way to be able to do that sort of networking at scale. And it really allows you to have the freedom to adapt to whatever you need to do or whatever you're able to do. Like, I think there's value in figuring out like some level of people that you do keep human to human contact with consistently. Right. Like the kind of people that you do talk to regularly, that you call up and that sort of thing. But it allows you to adapt that to either be more optimal, to say, if I have to decide who those people are, it's like, who are the people that I most enjoy spending that time with? Right? Like, that's a big part of it. But the other aspect is you could start being more leveraged with it too, and being able to say, who are the people that maybe I don't keep up daily with every client, but who are my top 100 referrers?
Who's the top 10 realtors I've worked with? Who's the top 10? Who are my channel partners? Right?
Exactly. Because you keep daily contact with those people. Maybe not daily,
bi-weekly
priority contact, right? And so it starts to let you figure that out, where it's like, you're right, it would be too daunting to try and keep up with 4,000 people. But chances are, if you, over the course of a year, plan to keep your top 100 in a zone of continual contact in some form or fashion, that's a lot more doable. A lot more doable. And by being able to free up your focus on those people, you're able to really double down on a lot of what makes those work as well.
And that's the optimal. And I think the coolest thing, though, my clients that love this the most even do that. Like they let the system work and they focus on their transactions because like people that like they love this, like it really works for
Right.
them. If they are doing marketing, this 10x is it, but they're able to just sit in the moment on solving the current deals. And
Right.
you know, they're able to grow their realtors business through this. And
Right.
you know, and I say that because I hear top 100 and I'm just like, right now I've got people in that I'm around. I see them a lot. I've met so
Right.
many different people. It's nice to know that like they're seeing me and like I can be in Puerto Rico and they still see me. And
Right.
like, so with that, we had a promise that I was going to share what the best offer is that I'm seeing working right now.
Indeed.
So,
Indeed. I almost spilled the beans.
yes, you
but
did.
I didn't.
And love about this is this works whether someone's going to do something soon or they're in the 3 to 7 year category. And that is if you're thinking about reach out to me 6 months before you're ready. And my client Jerry, he called it the 6-month smooth sale preview. And I like that term. Reach out to 6 months before you're ready for your 6-month smooth sale preview. And there's lots that you can do there. You can put it on your signature on your email. But the truth is, you're in the process of buying a house. And like there are things that you're doing now that if you would have done it 6 months ahead of time, you'd be further along right now. And I've got even some of my wealthiest clients, there's things they can do 6 months ahead of time that can give them tens of thousands of dollars or just make things smoother. And that's really my USP to my real estate clients. 6 months before you're ready, because if they hear that over the next 7 years, you know what they're going to do? They're going to reach out to me 6 months before they're ready. And I'm going to be able to, like, again, deepen that relationship, give them guidance. They're not going to be filling out Zillow leads or accidentally get caught up with someone they go to church with. Like, we're going to have that conversation up front. And I love that, you know, reach out to me 6 months before you're ready. But we've got some guys that have billboards and they say, get an offer on your home today. You know, get a guaranteed offer on your home today. I'll sell your house guaranteed at the price you want. Well, that's for people that are to move right now. If all my people reach out to me 6 months before then, we cut all that off at the pass. You know?
Right? Yeah. And what I love the 6 months, because the reality is 6 months is it's arbitrary, right? But it's one of those things where it feels like far enough in advance where it's like in people's minds, they might envision, yeah, like I feel time next year, I want to start this process, I want to do this thing. And if they're reaching out at that point, really that's going to be ideal, especially the lenders listening. If it wasn't for my years of experience working in real estate, I don't know if I would have realized that really, if you want your home search to be successful, the first thing you start with is making sure your financing is figured out, right? Because like most people aren't paying with cash. And so figuring out how you're going to pay for the thing, that dictates everything else. What homes are you looking at? What can you actually afford? Do you need to make changes in your tax strategy, in your what things you're planning on buying with credit or not? There's all sorts of things that if you know in advance makes a big difference. And with a purchase like a home purchase, having as much time as possible to make sure here's what's coming up, here's what we're trying to do, how do we adjust our decisions, it makes that, you know, as effective as possible, makes it painless as possible. But most people don't realize that. Most people go through the unfortunate reality of they start their home search journey by going to Zillow, by falling in love with some houses, trying to go and see those houses, having half of them already be under contract and they didn't realize that, but falling in love with these houses, and then they're like, oh crap, we got to take care of financing. And there's time that it takes to do that, to actually get pre-approved, to be able to submit a good offer. You stand your best chance of being able to submit a strong, solid offer when you have all of those ducks in a row in advance. So yeah, that reach out to me 6 months in advance. It's like, shoot, if not sooner, but 6 months feels like mentally probably what people, you know, might be able to wrap their heads around anticipating. Yeah. Like, yeah, we might be looking to get a house in the next 6 months.
And what's really cool about it is, so one, we know they think 6 months, once they get in heat, it's probably going to be 2. Because once you're looking at home waiting for your to-go order, like you're going to get in heat. You're going to want to buy the house. So like that's the one. But then 2, how cool is it as a lender that the person reaches out to you and you can send them back to your realtor? Like, you know, like that's what you want as a realtor. Give your realtor compliant clients. Or if it's a client that's been orphaned because so many people have gotten out of the business, like how cool that you can persuade, you know, you find out, you know, with the person, you know, they don't have one yet. Connect them to your realtor early on, the one that just gave you business. Imagine that you've trained your whole database to reach out to you first and not the realtor, right? Well, you get your realtor to train that. Well, whenever they say, oh yeah, this person reached out to me 6 months early, you're the reason for it. You taught your realtor to do it. I just love that offer for building that relationship over the long haul.
Right.
You know, like that is a USP that really stands the test of time. And of course, they're going to reach out to me if they have to move quick. But it's also cool to know we're going to reach out to Charlie early.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's powerful.
So that's it. The basics of business. Build a list. Build a relationship with them. And that's, to me, I think that's the opportunity we have. And that's what most people are missing. And then sell them what they want. Make an offer to them. And if you would like to know about how I can help you do this with you and your realtor partners, go to realtorwaitinglist.com and would love to find out about your business, talk to you, kind of lay it out for you, see if it's a good fit. And that's
you know what? I'd recommend that people reach out 6 months before they think they need it.
Yes. Yes. I love that. Before you think you're ready for to grow your business, reach out 6 months ahead of time. I love that. Awesome. Indeed. I'm Charlie Madison with my great friend and guest host, Zach Hammer, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.